When did your class revolt against your teacher? The fire alarm started blaring during class, but Mr. Griffin held up his hand and told us all to sit back down. He said it was just the monthly fire alarm test, and we had too much to cover before tomorrow's exam. But Mr. Griffin, we're supposed to evacuate for all alarms, Trisha said from the front row. He waved her off and turned back to the board to continue his lecture on cell division. The alarm kept screaming overhead, but he just raised his voice to talk over it. Most of us exchanged nervous looks, but nobody wanted to challenge him. Mr. Griffin was known for giving detention to anyone who questioned his authority. Through the door window, I could see other classes filing out into the hallway. Some teachers were leading their students outside, while others seemed confused about whether this was real or not. The alarm had been going for 3 minutes now, which was way longer than the usual monthly test. Jaime leaned over and whispered that he smelled something burning. At first I thought he was messing with me, but then I caught it too. A faint smell like burnt toast mixed with melting plastic. Other students started noticing and shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Mr. Griffin, I really think we should go outside, I said, raising my hand. He turned around with that look that meant I was about to get detention. But before he could say anything, the intercom crackled to life. Vice Principal Roberts' voice came through, sounding annoyed and urgent. Teachers, since there is very obviously a fire alarm going off, please evacuate the building as per your drill instructions. Even with direct orders from administration, Mr. Griffin hesitated. The smell was getting stronger now, and some students were already standing up ready to leave with or without permission. Everyone remain seated, Mr. Griffin commanded. This is clearly another false alarm. The cooking class probably burnt something again, but I could see smoke starting to seep under the door. Trisha stood up and headed for the door, but Mr. Griffin blocked her path. I said remain seated. Nobody leaves until I say so. The smoke was getting thicker now. Other students were starting to panic. Jamie pulled out his phone to call his mom, but Mr. Griffin snatched it away. He was determined to maintain control even as the situation spiraled. Through the window, I could see the last few classes evacuating. We were the only ones left on this floor. The smoke was making some kids cough, and the burnt smell was overwhelming. Amy started crying, saying she had asthma and needed to get out. Mr. Griffin finally seemed to realize this wasn't a drill, but when he tried to open the door, it wouldn't budge. The handle was hot to the touch, and smoke was pouring in through the gaps. He pulled his hand back with a yelp and turned to face us with real fear in his eyes. We were trapped in a room filling with smoke because he'd waited too long. Everyone get low and move to the windows, he ordered, his voice cracking. We crawled to the windows as smoke filled the upper half of the room. Mr. Griffin struggled with the old windows that had been painted shut years ago. Jamie and I helped him force one open just as the smoke got thick enough to make breathing difficult. Fresh air rushed in, but we were on the 3rd floor with no fire escape. Sirens wailed outside as fire trucks arrived. Firefighters were setting up ladders, but they were focused on the other side of the building where the actual fire was. Nobody knew we were still inside because every other class had evacuated. Mr. Griffin's face was pale as he realized his mistake might cost us our lives. Help! We're still in here! Trisha screamed out the window. A firefighter spotted us and started redirecting the ladder truck, but the smoke was getting worse and some students were struggling to breathe. Amy was using her inhaler, but it wasn't helping much with all the smoke. We took turns at the window gasping for fresh air while waiting for rescue. The ladder finally reached our window, and firefighters started helping students climb out one by one. Mr. Griffin made sure everyone else went first, which was the only decent thing he'd done all day. As I climbed onto the ladder, I looked back and saw him slumped against the wall looking defeated. Once outside, we were checked by paramedics while watching smoke pour from the building. Principal Vasquez found our class huddled together and did a head count. Relief washed over her face when she confirmed everyone made it out. But then she noticed Mr. Griffin being given oxygen by the paramedics, and her expression hardened. Other teachers were whispering and pointing at our group. As the firefighters worked to contain the blaze, I overheard 2 administrators talking. They mentioned something about previous incidents and final warnings. One of them pulled out a folder and showed it to Principal Vasquez, who looked even angrier. She walked over to Mr. Griffin with determination. This is the 3rd time you've ignored safety protocols. We need to talk about your future at this school. Mr. Griffin nodded silently while still breathing through the oxygen mask. But what happened next made everyone freeze. A firefighter emerged from the building carrying something wrapped in a blanket. He walked straight to Principal Vasquez with a grim expression and pulled her aside for a private conversation. Her face went white as he unwrapped what he was carrying. Inside was a student ID badge, burnt around the edges but still readable. It belonged to Colby Myers, a sophomore who everyone assumed had been absent today. The firefighter's next words carried across the silent crowd. We found this in the chemistry lab storage room. The door was locked from the outside. Full story on channel linked below.